It's much more straight to be had on play by play.
So, translating, a pergunta foi, a gente está chegando perto do limite, a maioria dos cubos, e tem muitos cubistas, inclusive do Brasil, que mandaram perguntas, e do Espírito do Fórum Mundial, que falam que talvez as pessoas tenham perdido interesse por estar chegando muito perto do limite. Aí o Carlos falou, eu perguntei o que ele acha disso, o que ele acha em termos de tempo, se dá para melhorar. Ele falou que na Tailândia, 4 anos atrás, ele estava fazendo média mais ou menos de 7 alto, 7.8, 7.90, e 4 anos depois ele está fazendo 7 baixo. Então ele melhorou mais ou menos meio segundo em 4 anos, o que é bem pouco, mas ele falou que mesmo assim interessante. Então ele fala que, como desafio, quem estiver chegando agora vai sempre conseguir treinar. Em termos de diminuir tempo, ele falou que tem muito a aprender, mas realmente ele deve estar chegando perto do limite. Aí é uma coisa interessante saber para onde que vai. Né? Se vai acrescentar mais um dígito no tempo, talvez, tem muitas opções. Beleza? So, next question is for Ron. Ron, actually, I think many people are really curious about that. So, how did you have with your other co-founders? How did you have the idea to found a Cube Association to rule the championship around the world? It was, and being here today, had lots of work with this. Was something that you are expecting?
Okay, so it all started actually with this little fellow there, Chris Hardwick.
Chris Hardwick. Yeah, Chris Hardwick is a legend. É uma lenda, pessoal. Please, a round of applause for Chris Hardwick, please.
So what happened was that I met Chris on internet in 1999, December 1999, and we were competing in an online computer Rubik's Cube game. And later we also met Tom Dennenberg, he's not here. But Chris already knew Dan Knights and Matt Wilder, who were also much into what we call speed cubing. And we, after like 1 year or so, we said we should meet. And so I said, I'm prepared to come to the US, but only if there's some kind of competition. So, okay, that's good, but what kind of competition? Well, just call it World Championship and see what happens. So, but we kind of failed in 2001, but then we had Dan Crosby, a crazy guy, but he's a good friend of mine in Canada, and he helped us get the World Championship in Toronto realized. And it was a huge success, but there were lots of things going wrong. For example, there was one guy, he was occupying one time all day because we didn't have time limits. So, so actually we had the World Championship with 83 competitors and only 4 timers, and we had 2 scramblers. So they had a lot of work. Anyway, so after the World Championship, then Tyson Mao, he started organizing competition in California, and I organized competition in Europe. And then somewhere in 2004 we said, let's get official, let's make an official organization, and that's how the WCA started.
Very nice, Lisa. Thank you very much. Okay, maybe I'll mistake the names, so I won't pronounce it, but I'll have a quick translator here now. A história do Ron foi muito interessante. Ele falou que ele conheceu o Chris Hardwick, um outro cara, que eu não peguei o nome, certo? Pela internet, como a maioria de nós nos conhecemos mesmo. Ficou conversando, ficou treinando o cubo e ele falou assim, a gente deveria se conhecer. Aí o Ron falou, eu estou preparado para ir para os Estados Unidos, mas só se tiver uma competição. Aí eles falaram, bom, vamos fazer uma competição chamada de Campeonato Mundial e ver o que dá. Foi isso que eles fizeram. Aí não deu muito certo, mas eles ganharam muita experiência, depois acharam um outro cara. What was the name, the one guy that organized in Toronto?
Dan Crosby.
Dan
Crosby.
O que ele falou? Olha isso aí. Ele organizou o campeonato mundial lá em Toronto, esse foi bem melhor, mas ele falou que esse teve um monte de erros, que não tinha limite de tempo forte. Teve um cara que ficou lá o dia inteiro fazendo, porque não tinha limite de tempo, tinha 2 baralhadores só, mas esse foi o começo. Depois disso, o Tyson Hall, eu acho que não está aqui, começou a organizar muitas competições, e em 2004 eles falaram, vamos fazer para oficial. Foram procurar, em termos de legislação, como montar, e foi onde a WCA, né, a Associação Mundial de Cubo Mágico, surgiu. So, very interesting story. Thank you very much, Ron. Okay. Following order, I have a question for Rafael Sinoto that have taught more than 500 children personally in schools in Brazil, making a lot of money, right? So, yeah. he can answer in either language. I'll translate to English. He answer in Portuguese, okay? So, Rafael, you have taught a lot of children. What is, in your opinion, the best approach to teach a young children how to solve the Rubik's Cube? And which was the most young children you have ever taught personally in your life?
Bom, primeiro a gente tem que ensinar método de camadas, né? Existem vários jeitos vários tipos de método de camadas, né? Então tem gente que gosta com poucas sequências, aí, poucos algoritmos para aprender, mas eu acho que dá para ensinar aquele que a gente mais conhece, que são basicamente 7 passos, e a pessoa tem que aprender umas 6 sequências. Né? Menos que isso dá para fazer, mas começa a ter que ficar meio complicado para quando a criança é muito nova, né? E não precisa muito mais que isso também. Então, eu acho que é aquele básico que a maioria conhece aí.
Mas temos de abordar esse jeito de ensinar.
Então, aí recentemente me deram uma ideia aí de criar umas histórias, tá? Enquanto você está ensinando aí, sei lá, ligar as peças a uns personagens e contando, construir uma história, mas do mesmo jeito que a gente faz para decorar as peças no blind, né, para você fixar bem aquela sequência. Então você transforma aqueles movimentos totalmente aleatórios para eles numa historinha, e a história eles não esquecem, né? Então, e depois que eu comecei a fazer isso na escola, foi muito mais fácil, principalmente as crianças mais novas. Mesmo as mais velhas não acham ruim que você está contando historinha, não acham que é para criança não, eles aceitam bem. Eu gosto de ensinar dos 11 anos para frente, menos que isso a criança tem que estar querendo muito. Os 11, mesmo que ela não queira muito, você ainda consegue ensinar, mas menos que isso é bom que ela queira, porque senão ela não presta atenção. Para mim, o ideal é de 11 para frente. Né? Algumas com 10 aprendem bem fácil, tá? Mas mais novas elas têm que querer bastante. O mais novo que eu ensinei pessoalmente foi com 7 anos. E é bem difícil, essas crianças bem novas. Eu admiro o pai do Jean que ensinou a menina com 2 anos.
And I'm translating now. Rafael said, basically the best method that everyone knows to teach is the basic method with the layer by layer method, which have 7 steps. But I was asking more like of approach, which one of approach you would use. And he said basically he's been learning now that using stories for young children helps a lot to make the Rubik's Cube that at the beginning seems really unlogical, to make it really easy to memorize and really interesting for the young kid, sort of like we use in multivariate to memorize the cube. Okay? And he said, basically for a whole pack of kids, young 11 is the most young age you could learn, but personally, for just one kid, he teach 7 years old kid. Okay? So really nice about that. Actually, Robert, now you're going to be last because I have a question for Kevin. I should be earlier. Okay? So Kevin, you had the chance to talk about the big cube, right? About limits. And actually, I was talking about that. I was going to ask you about that because someone in the forums asked that some categories are actually approaching 0, like 2 by 2 pyramids, even 2 by 3 if it's not a lot of limits, right? So, but he asked if you think cubers are actually will get more inspired to practice big cubes for more of a challenge, since the other cubes are getting really close to limits. And I'll add something. What do you think is the limit for 6 by 6 and 7 by 7?
Well, I guess I'll go with the limits first. Well, for 6 by 6, I mean, I can get like it's kind of interesting because I can get like really smooth solves that I don't do anything special on, and they're just like nice, and I can be like 133. So I have to like, and even then, the ouchie is like not the best thing in the universe. It's just the best thing right now. I'd say the better cube came out, like sub 135 average is pretty doable. I'd say like pushing under a 130 on average is pretty tough. I don't know if you could get much faster than like a high 120 average. 7 by 7, well, Felix got some stupid average yesterday that I was like disgusting.
How much that?
I think he got his 233 mean, which is like, that's like really fast. That's really impressive. That's a good job. I'd say like averaging, I mean, Felix like even told me that his 223, he didn't really, like he thought it was like a 233, and then he looked down and he's like, oh, this is gonna be a world record by a lot. And like that just shows you right there that like you don't have to have like an insanely lucky or like really good solving at the time like that. So I'd say, especially with the better hardware, you could definitely average probably on just under 220. Past that would be pushing it as well. But yeah, the cubes in general there's a lot of growth to be had, and if you notice the rankings, like, I mean, usually there's a bit of a gap after Felix and I, and 6 especially, and then 7 as well. And like, the gap between like first, or like top 5 and like rank 100 is like pretty big relative to the other events where a ton of people are clustered up. So it's definitely an event that you can get into and get competitive in really quickly. I think the biggest deterrent is that it takes a while when you start. Like, doing 7x7 solve, it takes 10 minutes. I don't know, when I was at 10 minutes, somehow that didn't really deter me. It was kind of, I did it anyways, but that's the biggest deterrent. And like getting down, if you're at 10 minutes, and like any of the big cubes, getting faster is incredibly easy and will happen very quickly. As opposed to now, I dropped a second in like 3 months, that'd be pretty good. As opposed to, I could drop like 2 minutes in a month when I started. So yeah, yeah.